Hi friends, Robin here from Cheese from Scratch, and today I'm going to be making my kids an after-school snack. So I remember when I was a little girl, we used to go to my grandma's all the time. My mom was a rancher, and she was a rancher on my grandparents' ranch. So we would go and we would be with my grandma after school while my mom was off doing all of this work. And one thing that I always remember is coming to her house, getting off the bus, walking down the driveway, coming to her house, and she would always have Cheese Whiz, like store-bought Cheese Whiz, and Wonder Bread, or if it was a baking day, because she would do a baking day every week. She would have one day that was baking day. It would be bannock, because she would just make like a regular white bread recipe, and then she would fry some up as bannock. So we would have Cheese Whiz on bannock or Cheese Whiz on Wonder Bread, and I always think about that all the time. I think about how yummy that was, and now you couldn't catch me eating Cheese Whiz from the grocery store, but luckily I have a recipe for making it yourself from homemade, really from scratch ingredients, and so I'm excited to show you today how I am going to make that for my kids for an after-school snack. Alright, so super simple ingredients to make this homemade Cheese Whiz. You can find the recipe on my blog, and I will link it down below. I was first given this recipe by a follower over on Instagram. Her old handle was this boy mom's life, and now she got a new handle, and I think I have it linked on the blog. But anyways, first got this recipe, and then I adapted it from that one. So we're going to need a gallon of milk. I've got some older milk, and then I've got some fresh milk from today. Annabelle's sort of giving like a weird amount of milk right now, where, well, it's not a weird amount of milk right now, but it's 2.5 gallons, so we're always having half a gallons, like half gallons sitting. So I'm going to be using these 2 half gallons here, and then we're going to need citric acid. So you can buy citric acid at the regular grocery store in the canning aisle. I buy mine at the canning, or at the health food store, just because I can get it in bulk there. You're going to need some salt, just any sort of salt that you have. It's just a fresh cheese, so it doesn't matter. We're going to need some butter, a 1/4 cup of butter. And then you're also going to need a selection of cheeses, or just whatever cheese you have in the fridge. So I'm going to be using a selection of cheeses today, is what I meant to say. I've got some Asiago, and I believe this is like a Colby or something like that. So I'm going to be using both of these ones. And homemade Cheese Whiz is a great recipe because it's so much work to make these homemade cheeses. Like, these were a lot of work to make these hunks of cheeses, whereas this recipe kind of builds off of the flavors that develop in these cheeses, and you'll see what I mean by that later on here. Right. So the first thing we're going to do is pour our milk into the pot here, and you can use skim milk for this recipe if you'd like, and that's just one way to be able to keep the cream. And you can also use pasteurized milk for this too. So if you don't have a milk cow or anything, you can still make this recipe. And it's, as I said, super simple, comes together in probably maybe 20 minutes tops kind of thing. All right. So first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to heat this milk up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm just going to do that on the stove, just slowly. While I'm doing that, I'm going to wash my jars. I'm going to do a few other things in the kitchen, just coming back every once in a while to check on it, give it a little bit of a stir. But honestly, I'm not having to do very much at all right now. Alright, so my milk is now 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of citric acid, and I'm going to dilute it in about a 1/4 cup of cool water. Add that in there, dilute her up. I'm going to go ahead and just dump that in there. And you're going to see almost instant separation. Just stir that around to kind of disperse it. You can see the whey is separating. It's turning sort of yellow and you're getting the curds there. That's what you want. So I'm going to let this sit just for a few minutes, just so that that separation can continue a little bit. Alright, so I've let this sit for a few minutes. You can see here that it's quite yellow. It was milky before, but now there's quite yellow. That's all that whey there, and the cheese has separated. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour that through a fine mesh strainer like this, and just with a bowl underneath. If you have a larger bowl, then that works out better because you don't end up having to dump it out a few times, but I don't have a larger bowl that fits that strainer. So I'm just going to go ahead and just dump off some of this whey. And then get all that cheese into that mesh strainer there. And if there's a little bit left in the pot, that's not a big deal because we're going to be using this pot again here really soon. So what you're going to do is you're going to let this, I'm going to use this pot actually, just for this. You're going to let this cheese sit in the fine mesh strainer just for a few minutes while you prepare all the other ingredients, and then we're going to be adding it back into this pot. And then all of this whey, because you will get about a gallon of whey from this recipe, you can use it in baking, you can use it, cook your rice in it as a base for bone stock, all sorts of different things that you can do with whey, or you can just feed it to other animals on your homestead if you need to. Alright, so we're just going to set this aside while it drains, and we'll prepare all the other ingredients. Alright, so we're going to be shredding up some cheese here. As I said, cheddar cheese works good, any kind of cheese really that you want. And so this is a really good way to be able to use up some of those homemade cheeses that you have in the fridge without using the entire block up. Because a lot of times, you know, you put a lot of work into making all this homemade cheese, and yeah, you don't want to just eat it all up in one spot. So this is a good way to feed a crowd on a little bit of aged cheese. I'm just going to cut, there's a little bit of mold on this one. This is a nice firm cheese, so totally, it had mold growing on it before, so I totally expected that it will have a little mold on it. Get rid of that right off. And the chickens will love that. Like, I was generous with that. I would definitely keep more of that, but. So this cheese, I believe, was like an Asiago. Faber Asiago. So we're just going to grate up about 1 cup of a various kinds of cheeses. Just depending on what flavors you want. I actually am going to have a cup here, so we'll just use this cheese today. Make it easy on myself. Alright, and I've got my butter. I've got about a 1/4 cup of butter, 1 cup-ish of cheese. Got my salt, and we're ready to go here. Alright, so I've let this cheese drain for a few minutes just while I was grating that cheese up. I'm going to take this whey out that sunk in the bottom of the pot. I'm just going to dump that out because I want it to be nice and dry in this pot when I start making this cheese whiz. Alright, so I'm going to take this and just dump it into here. And if there's a little whey that goes into there, not a big deal at all. You'll see in the recipe that I have on my blog that I tell you to have some reserved milk. I actually commonly don't use any reserve milk. I just use a little bit of reserve whey if I need to add anything in. And a lot of times I don't even need to, just because the cheese has enough whey left in it. Like there's some whey in the bottom there. Alright, so make sure you wash this right away, because it'll be no fun. No fun at all. Alright, so this is what it looks like in the pot at the moment. So there's my big block of cheese. There's a little bit of whey in there. I actually am going to dump that out, and if I need it, I'll add it back in. Alright, so we've got our cheese in here, so now we're going to add all of our ingredients into the pot. There's a little bit of whey and stuff in there, but it's not a big deal at all. There's not very much of it. So we're going to add a 1/4 cup of butter in, about a teaspoon of salt, we're going to add that cheese that we grated up, about a cup of cheese. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start heating this. And we just want to stir it while we heat it, and it's just going to become nice and smooth. And if we need to, we can add a little bit of that reserved milk, or we can add a little bit of that whey as well back into here if we need to. You can see this is getting all nice and kind of melty. The butter has melted now, and the cheese is just starting to melt. So we're going to keep going until this is nice and smooth. Alright, now we're starting to get there, but we're not quite there yet. See how it's still a little bit lumpier? This is going to get a lot smoother. Alright, and just about a minute later, it is ready. So see how it's nice and smooth, there's no lumps in it. Now, if you wanted at this point, you could add in that reserved milk or whey if you wanted it to be more sort of like fondue-ish. So you can see it's very liquidy right now, but when this, I haven't added any in, but when this hardens, it will become like a spreadable cheese. You'll need a knife to spread it, kind of thing. So if you want it to stay liquid, you want it more fondue-ish, then you can definitely add in that reserved milk or whey, but just yeah, it's up to you. It's up to what you're going to be using it for. So now I'm going to put this into a container, and as it cools, it is going to harden. Or well, not harden, but it is going to thicken. Oh, it's so yummy warm. If you're like wanting like queso or something, make this into queso. Oh my goodness, so good. So we'll put this to the side. Alright, there we go. So it's still nice and warm at this point. You let it get nice and thick, then you can spread it on toast. This is like gas station nachos, but so much better. Who knows what's in gas station nachos? Who knows what's in Cheese Whiz, really? Actually, well, you could read the ingredient list, but you probably wouldn't get through it. You would get bored before you got through it. Or shocked, maybe, would be the correct word. This is my favorite. So good. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that you are able to make this yummy cheese for your family. My kids are going to be super excited when they get off the bus. They're going to get off the bus here in about an hour. So by the time they get in, this will be nice spreadable cheese. They can eat it on toast if they want. If they want, I can warm it up for them and put it on nachos like I'm eating it right now. So nice little versatile, healthy snack for my kids that only has 4-ish ingredients in it. So if you like this video, make sure that you subscribe and like it, and come back next Monday, because I have been posting a video every Monday on all things milk cows, cheese making, dairy processing, and that's it. all those things I've been doing. Cheese from scratch. So thank you guys for watching this video and have a good day. Bye!